Okay, we are ready to finish up this tiny planet. The first thing you want to do is we're going to flip this back around because this line shouldn't be on the top of our composition. We want that on the bottom, even though I have this nice tall building which should probably be on the top anyway, but even if you don't have that tall building, you want this line to be on the bottom where it's going to be less obvious and less visible. So again, we're going to go to Image Rotation, and 180 degrees. Okay, so already, even though I haven't fixed that line, it already looks a lot better. It's just not so obvious to our eye. So what you want to do then is zoom in to your area where your line is. And there are a couple of ways of doing this. I'm going to first of all add a new layer, and I'll call that Line Corrections. Okay, in case I make a mistake, I can easily get rid of that. I don't want to distort or change my background, my original image. Okay, so here's a tool I want to show you, the Clone Stamp tool. I think I've shown you this in the past, but we're going to be working with this to kind of try to clean this up a little bit. And there are other things that you can use and other ways of doing this, and it really depends on your image. So if you're not sure where to start or what's best for your image, then come get me because I can help you problem solve it. So first of all, we want to sample all layers because I'm working on the line corrections layer, but I want to take my stamp from the background layer. So it's important that I'm on all layers. So what I can do is, and I'm going to turn my opacity and flow down to about 50 as I work with this, somewhere in that range, and I want to be on a soft brush with a 0% hardness. Okay, so what I want to do is take a picture from one side and stamp it onto the other. So let me get my brush size how I want. I'm going to hold Option to take a picture. So while I'm holding Option, you can see my cursor looks a little different. I'm going to click the mouse. So I just took a picture of the pixels right there, and you can see it's wanting to paste over here. So as I click and drag, it's painting, and you can see that little crosshair there. That's telling me that's where my pixel data is coming from. So let me get this part softened a little bit. So that's looking a little bit better already. I'm still seeing a line there, but it's not as obvious. Now when I come up into here, you'll see that it's going to grab from the clouds. So I can even clone stamp the clouds over a little bit. And that helps a lot too. And this may work well with your image and it may not. It just depends again on what your image is and what you have going on. So now I'm getting into the building. So I'm going to Command Z because I didn't like the way that that stamped the building. And then maybe I'll take an image on this side and stamp this way. So I'm going to go back and forth and just soften this up. Oops, so I got the building again, so you have to be careful. So Command Z. So I'm just going to play with this for a while, get this cleaned up and softened up, and I will speed up while I'm doing this. Okay, so that's looking definitely a lot better, but I still see quite a bit of difference from this side to this side. So here's another thing that we're going to do. I'm going to grab this blue on my foreground color and go to my paintbrush, and I'm going to stay on a soft brush, and I'm going to keep that opacity and flow down, and I'm just going to paint this darker blue with a sweeping motion from this side to this side so it gets a little bit more blended in there. So it already looks better on the bottom. To be careful around the clouds. And what's really important here is that you're working on a soft brush and that opacity and flow are down, because you'll get a nice soft result with that instead of a hard edge. Okay, I think the sky's looking pretty good right there. And I could do the same thing up in here. So going back to the clone stamp, I'll go ahead and fix this. I think the main thing, since you guys have just 2 days on this project and 1 day for this cleanup step, the main thing is getting that sky cleaned up. And usually what's happening in here we don't have a lot of control over, but if you have time and you want to try this, go ahead and clean up what's happening in here as well. Okay, I think that's looking great. So I'm going to file save, and let's go ahead and rename our background to Tiny Planet, since that is our tiny planet right there. And you may have more than 2 layers, but you should have at least 2 layers. Your tiny planet layer, obviously, and then your line corrections layer. And then if depending on what kind of cleanup you need to do, it's possible you may add more layers, but at a minimum you should have 2 layers. And then file save and then submit into MyConnect.